Hey everyone, it's James. I am vlogging on a Saturday because I didn't have an opportunity to vlog this past school week. Number one, because I was out last Friday through Monday for personal reasons. During that time I got sick. I also was scheduled to be out on Tuesday because I had professional development. Since I'm a mentor for 2 new teachers, I had to go to that sick, and that wasn't too much fun because I had to like interact and my body was achy and I was freezing and the room was cold. And then so I took off Wednesday. I had to come back Thursday because I at that point had already missed 4 school days. Even though my students were reviewing and they were taking a test, it just was too much time for me, and I don't like to miss that many days of school. Luckily for me, my student teacher was able to sub for me, so he gave the review and he also gave the test to my students. Thursday was a late start. I was still sick, and then Friday, yesterday, was a pep rally schedule. Still wasn't feeling well. Everybody's getting sick. My student teacher's getting sick. Students are sick. Other teachers are getting sick. So it was bound to happen. I made sure to get my flu shot, by the way, so just in case that is coming around. Hopefully I don't get the flu. But let me talk about what I'm doing because I'm actually grading their exams right now. So they took their first exam. I don't know if you can see that. And what I did, I'm going to go over this because I want to show you what I'm doing to provide feedback, is that I broke them down into different levels, and they had to put a final answer here. I also made sure to put the standard that I was assessing at the very top. So the standard here is to express and manipulate chemical quantities using scientific conventions and mathematical procedures, including dimensional analysis, scientific notation, and significant figures. So that's a lot. And we've been working for like the past 3 weeks at this point, helping students to master or at least be proficient with the skill, because it's just, especially dimensional analysis, one of the skills that students struggle with throughout the semester, and more so second semester, where like that skill comes up more frequently compared to the fall semester. And after last year, you know, I had students that still struggled in rounding or scientific notation, and they would get angry and frustrated at Canvas, number one, but then also me, because they would put their answer in Canvas and I was still learning it, how to use it at the time, and so I didn't realize that you can put a range of answers. So I would put like an exact number, and so they wouldn't round or they wouldn't put their answer in scientific notation correctly, and they would get it wrong. And I didn't do a really great job of explaining scientific notation, I think, to them. They also struggle with dimensional analysis. So on the second day of school this year, what I did was a math boot camp. And so there was a station with rounding, a station with scientific notation, and a station where it was sort of like an intro to helping the students understand dimensional analysis, or at least for me, it was a new way that I was trying to introduce dimensional analysis by helping students understand simplifying algebraic fractions. So where like terms in the numerator and denominator cancel out, which I felt really helped, because looking through at least my first 3 periods, many of the students demonstrated proficiency in setting up the dimensional analysis problems. I think it's like the best that I've ever taught this skill, because I've never had so many students early on, maybe with single unit conversions, but not with like double and complex unit conversions. When I say complex, I mean double, when units are squared or cubed. And so many students set up their problems very nicely. The thing that they're still struggling with is rounding and scientific notation, because I had some students do some weird things. So one of the reasons I put the final answer box right here is because some students, what they would do in years past is they would put an answer and then they would do or, and they would write another answer. And in some cases on the test that I have right now, I had some students have like 4 different answers, but then they finally selected an answer and put it in the final answer box, and the one that they selected was incorrect. I had some students, they mathematically had like the correct answer. One of the answers was 29.4 and they were supposed to round to just 29. But what they did was they took the number they got in the calculator, they moved the decimal all the way to the very end of that number, so they converted it, I guess, to standard notation. I guess that's what they were thinking they were doing. And then they put their answer in scientific notation. And I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. We need to talk about that. So what I did was I broke it up into 3 levels. So level 1 was single unit conversions. Level 2 was double and complex. And then level 3 was one where I combined complex and double unit conversions, and then I had a problem like this where they had to solve it using the significant figure rules, and then they had to take their answer and they had to convert it. So like in this case, they had to convert it to pounds per liter cubed. So that one required a little bit more work. However, a student can still get a score of 3. And if this is your first time watching, I'm doing standards-based grading. So 4 is the highest or advanced proficiency, and then 3 is proficient. In order to get a 3, students for the most part would, clearly be able to do single unit conversions, and they might struggle or do well on double and unit conversions, but then struggle with scientific notation and significant figures. It just really depended on, the work that they showed. Again, most students were able to do dimensional analysis, but then they struggled with just scientific notation and significant figures, and that's what the standard is. It's those 3 skills in one. But actually what I want to do is I want to show you what I'm using to provide feedback to the students is through a Google add-on called autoCrat, which I guess merges Google Forms, Google Spreadsheet, or Google Sheets, and then Google Docs. And it just allows you to email the student whatever it is that you want to create. So I created this form that has like the different sections. It doesn't have like the actual test, but it says like, level 1 comments, level 2 comments, level 3 comments. And then when the students get their test back, they can sit there and they can read their comments and they can look at their paper as well. I'm going to also I scanned their actual copies as well, because I want to use their work for future reference. So when I decide to assess the skill again in the future, I might take a student's work, erase the name, and then tell the students, I want you to evaluate this piece of work. Like, go through, you're the teacher, and I want you to grade it based on what you know and are able to do. So that's another piece of assessment for me. But then it's also something that they can do, and then something that I can have my students next year do, because then I will have student work samples that I can utilize and show students in the future. But let me show you autoCrat. I'm going to switch to my computer so I can show you. Okay, so I'm here in Google Docs, and I created a form that I wanted to provide feedback to my students, and then have this form be sent as a PDF file via email to my students. It will also save in my work Google Drive, because I also want a copy, so that way, like, if a parent contacts me or a coach, I can send this to them as well. Once I created this, what I did is I opened up and I created a Google form. So here's my Google form, and if you notice, it says there's a part where it says name and email, and this is just my my business email, bonwithjames.com, and then the comments. So journal comments 1, if we go back to the sheet, this was section 1 that I had showed earlier on the test, and notice it matches the Google form field, because that's where I'm going to type in comments. So here's the email, and we'll just say, James, you did great on this part. I was more specific. I didn't do something like that. I was more objective when I was giving feedback. And then comments number 2, notice that matches here, and then general comments number 3, that also matches. Then down here, what it has is the main objective. Again, I listed the objective at the top, but I have for the main objective, in quotation marks, your score is A, then it has score, because then what I did is this was the rubric that I gave to the students. So I'm going to pretend James got a 3. I would just click this, and then towards the end it was overall comments, and that's what I have down here, final comments. So that way, where I had some students, they did well, but they made some mistakes. So James, overall, you did great. You made a few errors, something like that, blah, 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 blah. After that, what you're supposed to do is in the Google Forms, when you're creating it, you open up the spreadsheet and you get something that looks like this. And if you don't have the add-on, you can add or get add-ons, and it's called autoCrat. And again, for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to go through how to set all of that up. I just wanted to show you what I'm doing. And basically, once you're done using autoCrat, you can set it up to send during certain times, or as soon as you hit the submit button, it will send, oops, great job. Oh, great. It will send, and I have it like that so that way in case I forget to add anything, then you can submit it and it will send an email. And my computer's a little slow, so we'll see if it does pretty quickly. So I'm here on my work email because I also have myself as a BCC, a blind copy, so that way I receive a copy anytime I send it to a student. And it takes just a couple of seconds before it shows up in my mailbox. Okay, here it is. And so, it says dear, and this is how the students will know, because here in my district, each of our students, they have, it's their first and last name, and then at our district. And then I was able to type some comments in there. So it says you will find a PDF with comments in your exam grade. If you would like to reassess for a better score, then you'll need to indicate the reason why. When you click on this, there's a PDF with, sorry, my computer tends to be slow sometimes, with all the comments and everything mail merged together in a nice PDF document for the students to see. And so here you go. It says, James, you did great on this part. Great job. And then I clicked 3, so James made a 3. And then here are the final comments. James, overall, you did great. You made a few errors, so on and so forth. Again, I was more detailed with my students, so that way they could really get that specific targeted feedback to help them out. But this is downloadable. It goes straight to their email address, and it also saves in their Google Drive. It saves in my Google Drive. I can share with parent or guardian. And so, yeah, it's really a really great tool. So that's autoCrat. I know I went through that really quickly, but it was just one of the tools that I learned about this summer when I was learning about personalization, blended learning, center-based grading, and ways to provide specific feedback to students. And not only have I used that for what I'm doing right now, I use it to send out Saturday school notices based on what students were lacking in regard to learning targets, because I took the main standard and I broke it down into specific skills like dimensional analysis, had learning targets, significant figures had learning targets, and scientific notation had learning targets. And so I was able to really pinpoint where students were struggling and then send an email out to let them know, hey, this is not a punishment, but I'm really trying to help you out here. So it's been a really great tool. If you actually want me to create a video going over it, a tutorial I guess, then I can do that. But other than that, that's it. I'm going to stop here so that way I can grade the rest of these exams. Do me a favor, if there was anything about this video that you liked, then make sure to hit that like button, comment down below, and or share the video. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe so that way you can bond with James. As always, thanks for watching. Bye.